This is the Heavy Hitter Club channel. What's up, everybody? Marco here from the Heavy Hitter Club, and I have another clip for you from last year's charity webinars. This one is Dixon Jones once again, and let's call this a continuation from the video, what was it, 2 days ago, with maybe 3 days ago, that I shared when he was talking about topic clusters and he was talking about entities and how they fit into an SEO strategy. This is one of the most in-depth entity SEO discussions or entity SEO presentations that I have seen so far. He covered everything. He went in depth. He explained it really well. And so off we go. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Now I want to get down to the start of the presentation. So I'm going to start with something that I think is controversial, a little controversial, and that's what SEOs should understand by the concept of intent and when Google says search intent. Because SEOs describe intent as either informational, navigational, transactional, or investigational. I think there are 4 R's. So, and I checked the top 10 results for the search, and SEMrush said it, Moz said it, Yoast said it, Ahrefs said it, probably I said it somewhere in there. I'm not in the top 10 for the idea, but I think that this idea of intent being one of those 4 ideas is not what Google is thinking when they talk about intent and search intent. So here's an example. If I start this example by typing in horses H and then stop there, it might be different. But anyway, I'm just starting to write a phrase in here, as you might do as a searcher, and you're talking in a concept, and it's not about, at this stage, whether this search is informational, investigational, navigational, or transactional. In fact, to be honest with you, even Wikipedia gets this wrong. So Wikipedia says, right, the types of user intent are informational intent, navigational intent, transactional intent, commercial intent. But you know what? They say that immediately after they defined it in the first sentence. And the first sentence, they say it is the identification and categorization of what a user online intended or wanted to find when they were doing a search. That's not navigational or transactional. They are trying to find something very much more real than informational or transactional ideas. They're trying to find something like a horseshoe. And when you type in horseshoe from the UK here, in fact, from Wales, then you're going to find a whole load of different ideas that Google is kind of suggesting, because Google is trying to understand the intent of what it is that somebody types when they start typing in horseshoe. So in this example, there are very different topics, entities, ideas coming back here as you start to type. When you're typing in horseshoe, Google thinks at the top here, without knowing anything else about what I'm doing, they're suggesting that probably horseshoe crab is what I'm interested in this stage. The intent here is not necessarily to differentiate between transactional and navigational. The intent here is to try and work out whether I'm interested in horseshoe crabs or horseshoe lake or horseshoe pass or horseshoe falls or a number of pubs around the area called the Horseshoe Inn. So these are very different entities and very different ideas. And so I think that's this is really, really important to start, because it's what's going on here. Google is blending ideas and entities. So these are the results that come back. Let's go back to them in a second. But sorry, I'm just going to get back to my notes here. Google is blending here in this search suggests entity ideas, horseshoe lake, horseshoe pass, with search ideas, horseshoe bar and horseshoe inns. Okay, there's nothing yet in here to suggest that it's navigational or transactional, but it is starting to already show entities that Google clearly understands. Look, they got pictures of these things. They understand these concepts, and they're already trying to guide the user down a set of entities, real world ideas, so that if they can get that right, if Google can get that right, then the rest of Google's search is going to be easy, as long as you've communicated well that your site is about a horseshoe crab and there's a match with the searcher and they were searching for a horseshoe crab. So these are the results that come back. And on the left-hand side, we see very real entities around properties. We see the 4 horseshoes and the horseshoe pub. Pubs are obviously a big thing in my world. And also you can see entities in the left-hand side as well. The horseshoe is a fabricated product made normally of, so basically a sort of a horseshoe, and then horseshoes the game. And then on the right-hand side, we're seeing really the core index here. And the core index still doesn't know, because we haven't given it any more help, as to whether we're looking for a farrier, a person that puts on horses' shoes, or whether we're looking for a pub. So without that context, Google's core index on the right goes straight to the heart of the matter, not to Horseshoe Pass or to Horseshoe Falls, but with context, namely a location. Google can find those entities on the left-hand side, and a little bit more context, Google knows whether you're looking for a farrier or whether you're looking for a pub. So the point here, apart from the fact that I'm trying to be controversial about what people are looking at with search intent, is that if I'm a farrier, I do not want my website and my online presence to look like a pub. And if I'm a pub, clearly I don't want to look like a farrier. These are completely different audiences. These are different types of people looking for different types of things, not just slightly different, miles different types of things. So if you just get keywords around the phrase horseshoe and build your website, you're going to get things around Horseshoe Falls and Horseshoe Pub and horseshoe farriers, blacksmiths, and you're going to get all sorts of bits and pieces all jumbled in. You're not going to help Google identify your business and your knowledge graph and your life independent of everybody else out there, because we're all unique, right? All of our businesses, all of our online courses, all of our websites are all going to be unique, just like fingerprint. So we need to help communicate to a search engine like Google where those differences are, so that we can match our content to Google's audience, Google's search. So search intent is, do I want to be a farrier, or do I want a farrier, or do I want a pub? And I think this is important, because I don't think search intent is just about whether you're trying to buy something or whether you're trying to look for something. So what does the knowledge graph look like? Well, every website's knowledge graph is different. And it tends to look very, very different. And it's really a database of the frequency of ideas expressed on a website and how they connect to each other. So we've been talking about horseshoes, for example, in relation to pubs. So I thought I'd put this slide up. I may have used this slide or a version of this slide before. I've kind of elaborated on it, but I love this poster. I saw it in a local pub, which we're going to say for the point of the talk was called the Horseshoe Inn. It's pretty much a knowledge graph of beer. And I like to bring the complex concepts back down to real world examples where we can see and digest as humans what's happening here. So here we've got the entity, and if you look at the expanded bit, we've got the entity within the knowledge graph of beer for German lager. And we can see from the links and the connections that this is part of the lager family, and it's connected to Munich lager and Vienna lager, for example. So we can see these connections, and we can then see that Samuel Adams Boston lager is a type of Vienna lager, I think it is there. Anyway, so Google grabs ideas like this and augments their ideas and their records by reading your content. So what Google is really doing these days, I think, is going around the internet, indexing your content, but trying to take those bits of information and augment its own knowledge graph about beer, horseshoes, whatever it may be. So our job as SEOs is to try and build, I think, a knowledge graph of ideas of our own website that gives us a very clear fingerprint of when Google should be sending people to us as opposed to anywhere else, or indeed to their own knowledge graph and never send you the visit at all. And that's what Entity SEO is all about. It's not about just telling Google, what your site is about. It's about telling it in a way where Google has to send that user back to you, back to your ecosystem, whether it's, you've got to buy a flight from London to New York and you have to buy on British Airways because they're the only ones that fly there, or whether they have to send them to your site because you've got dynamic information that updates, or whether Google has not got the ability to give the in-depth information that the user requires, you've got to find reasons for people to come back to your ecosystem. Otherwise, this entity game and this knowledge graph game is eventually going to be Google has not just organized the world's information, Google has the world's information and therefore doesn't need to share it with anyone.
And there you are, heavy hitters. If you enjoyed the presentation and you want to see the rest of it, you should already know what to do. You have to go to heavyhitter.club/HHC/B-A-hero/. You make a donation. The charity is really worthwhile. It's a worthy cause. They're doing great things to help young girls who have been victims of psychological, physical, and sexual abuse, and even sexual slavery. That's who we're helping. We give you actionable information. We give you information that's not shared anywhere else. And if it is, it costs you thousands of dollars. In this one, you choose what it's worth to you, because you have to decide, well, first of all, whether you're going to donate, and second of all, how much it is that you're going to donate. Your wallet will tell you how much to donate, and your heart will tell you whether you should donate. But definitely, go visit the page and at least see what it is that the charity's doing. And then you go from there. But imagine what else is in there. Imagine how much other information we've shared on branding and entities and how to rank in Google, what's working in Google. We've shared so many things that are generally only shared with our paying members. But once a year, we put these together. The Heavy Hitter Club puts these speakers, we bring them in, and they give you information that you can act upon and employ right now. Put it into effect in whatever it is that you're doing to get results. We start on Wednesday, April 26th, 7 p.m. Eastern. That's when we start. We're 3 days away. Don't wait any longer. Go. Donate. Until Wednesday, see ya. This is the Heavy Hitter Club channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell.